Hi guys, what you've got in front of you is the breakdown of 923 forwards, backwards, upside down, and mirrored. I've broken the two into two ones, so I've got 911 3, 311 9, 311 6, and 611 3. I have put them into UK and USA time formats, looking at the just today for now. We've got the 3rd of November, which was passed in the UK. The times I was looking at is 6 and 9 in association with 923. So those two times have passed and the date itself has passed. I'll cross those out. In terms of the USA, I'm using the Hawaiian time because it's the furthest back. And 6 o'clock has passed in Hawaii. And the last one for November 3rd is 9 o'clock. Now, if anything happens in Hawaii around the Kilauea volcano at 9 o'clock in Hawaii, that would be 12 o'clock on the west coast, and that would be 3 o'clock on the east coast and 8 o'clock in the morning um, over here in the. Actually, no, that's wrong. It would be 12 o'clock on the west coast, but it would be 2 o'clock on the east coast because the time goes back at 2 o'clock in the morning on November 4th, which means it would be. Yes, that's still right. It would still be 8 o'clock in the morning over here. No, that's not right. It would be 7 o'clock in the morning over here. My apologies. Time zones and daylight savings. What a mess. So, looking out for any events around 9 o'clock Hawaiian time, like I said, if that happens, that would be 11:03 in Hawaii, but 11:04 in the rest of the world, the mainland United States and the UK. There may be some references to not exactly 11:04 and 11:03, but the numbers 3 and 4 are certainly referenced all over the chalkboard in the iPad Go 2 video. The shark's mouth is made up of the number 2, and the body itself as well, coming down to the tail, is also another number 2. 2 and 2 is 4. And then on the other side, the back and the back of the tail make up the number 3. On the map here, better refresh it since it's frozen. 1 second, please. Yes. So on the map, I haven't brought it up, but there's 4 pins on the map. Most of you are pretty aware of that. There's also 4 snowflakes on the wall just below the map. Again, so you've got another reference to 4, another reference to 4. Just with the house here, we may have the reference to New York on one side and the reference to 1 and 3, which again could make up the number 4 on the other side. This could also be an M, could represent Mar-a-Lago. The 2 flames at the top could be 11-3. There's many different ways of looking at it. The house itself could represent a missile or a rocket. So looking out for things like that happening. As I said, 11-3 I think is connected with Hawaii and Kilauea. If 11-4 has anything to do with a rocket, then it may be a missile launch from North Korea. They have recently threatened to restart their nuclear program over the US-led sanctions. That was published yesterday. In terms of 11-4, that may be when they launch their missile, or it could be in connection with a burning house or several burning houses. Could be Mar-a-Lago, could be upside down, which is a W, could reference the White House. We'll keep an eye out for any events like that. So that's the West Coast, 11-3, 11-4. I think the East Coast should be watching out 11-5, 11-6. That's obviously coming up to the midterms. I've already talked about how there's a connection with Florida and Donald Trump. So looking out for those kind of events. Possible tsunami on the East Coast, 11-5, 11-6. Donald Trump, something happening to him, 11-5, 11-6. And then we've got 11-7, which appears to be connected with the UK. That seems to be referenced, well, not 11-7, but 7, and the UK is looking at this month as a possibility of that 7 being 7-11. The shark's head, as I've pointed out many times before, making up the pound coin symbol. The shark's fin making up the number 7. That would be a sketchy interpretation by itself, but then you have a possible confirmation with, again, the number 7 here and the pound coin symbol. interestingly enough, Obama's shoe size is 12 in the United States, which would be 11 in the UK. So if this is referenced in the UK, then that would be 7 on his shoe, 11 the size of the shoe, and the pound coin symbol referenced in the UK, or at least its currency. So looking out for those events essentially. I made this video 3 times before, and I did a lot more covering of different things, but it was all getting a bit too confusing. Too much information can be overwhelming sometimes. But another reference to possibly 11-4 or even 3-4 is the 4 markings on one side, the 2 markings on the other. Or you can count this as 4 markings, and then you can do this mark, and this mark as 3. So either seeing 11-4 or 3-4, which again could be 7. So if you've got all the references kind of there. So just one more time, just in case you didn't catch what I was saying, and just in case the audio was messed up, I'll say it loud at the end. 11-3, 9 o'clock Hawaiian time, looking out for anything happening around Kilauea. 11-4, looking out for anything around like burning houses. Obviously, if Kilauea erupts, then that could be the connection. It may be that there's a missile launch from North Korea, or made to look like North Korea, so that war can begin just before the other events happen. As I said, 11-5, looking out for events around the East Coast, tsunami type event, EMP likely to follow around that time as well. 11-6 in particular, I'm looking out for something around Donald Trump and Florida, and the midterms. Essentially, obviously, I don't know if all these other events happen. Normally, I would expect the midterms or the elections to be suspended, but they may not, especially if it's advantageous for one party or the other. So, we'll have to see. And then, obviously, as I've said, 11-7, looking out for a UK event. There are more dates going up until the 15th and more events going up until the 15th. I think I'll save those for if we do see the events that I'm talking about now unfolding, then I can hopefully add on to that. But, the possibility of that would be reduced if California, for example, is affected, because that's where Silicon Valley is, and that's where a lot of the servers that basically run our social media networks and stuff are based. So, if anything happens to those, it's unlikely to be able to get on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, 4chan, any of those sites to share information. Obviously, I think there'll still be, because obviously the United States doesn't run the internet, and the internet isn't a localized thing, so there'd still be access, but a lot of the things that we rely on or that we use most commonly, especially YouTube, would not likely be accessible. So my personal reason for making these videos is to get the information out to people now, not for when the events happen for people to come back and say, oh yeah, you were right, because that's just besides the point completely. As I said, if the events that we're talking about happen, no one's going to be able to come back and watch the videos that have been made before to say, oh, it was, talked about in this iPad Go 2 video or whatnot. Obviously, again, if there's an EMP, then even videos that you've downloaded and saved, could be gone or inaccessible. So these videos are for now, for this time. They're not for, going back to after the event. They are for before the event. You guys, that's all I wanted to bring to you today. Sorry if it was a little bit confusing. As I've talked a little bit more after the information, I'll just highlight it one more time. 11-3, 9 o'clock Hawaii. 11-4, looking out for North Korea or something happening in association with burning buildings that may be connected with the Kilauea volcano. 11-5, looking out for a tsunami or something like that on the East Coast, EMP situation as well, possibly. 11-6, that again could be the tsunami EMP situation, but looking out more connected with something with Florida and Donald Trump. And 11-7, looking out for something happening in the UK, most likely related with the royal family and London. So you guys guys. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.